hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. Well, I'm here to bring you another of my top 10 lists today, and today I'm going to be taking a look at top 10 of the biggest box office flops, bombs of the last decade. So from 2014 to present day, basically. So a lot of these films on this list I have seen, I've watched, I've reviewed. Some of them I actually enjoyed, but it's regardless, really, that everything on this list has made quite a significant loss. I haven't seen all the films on this list, so I'll try and get around to watching some of them and then give you my thoughts on them. And how it'll work, I will give you what the film's budget was, how much it made at the worldwide box office, and what the overall loss was. Now, it won't always correspond, the loss, to what the budget and worldwide box office was, because they don't always include in there what the film, what they put into the film towards marketing and all that kind of other stuff they put into a film to try and make it a success. So that's why they might not always correspond. So I've done quite a bit of research to try and get the figures as accurate as I can. So we'll start at number 10, one that's made the least loss, right down to number 1, the film that's made the biggest loss of the last decade. So I hope you enjoy checking out this list, and thanks for watching.
Who do you think the thief is?
He's all of us.
You're an admirer.
He has his qualities. He's not you.
Are you sure?
So coming in at number 10 on the list is Robin Hood, the 2018 reimagining of Robin Hood that starred Taron Egerton and Jamie Foxx. It had a $100 million budget. Unfortunately, it only managed to pull in about $85 million at the box office, and that corresponded with a £102 million loss for the studio. Doesn't surprise me. I watched and reviewed this film when it came out. I hated it. I really disliked this film. I think it was actually my worst film of the year that year. At least I think it was. I'd have to look back on my list for that year. But yeah, this is not a good reimagining of Robin Hood, and it doesn't surprise me that it failed.
I say before all of you, I spoke the truth.
Right, coming up at number 9 on the list is The Last Duel, the Ridley Scott epic that was released in 2021. It had a budget of $100 million. It was very disappointing at the box office. It only made back about $30 million. And overall, a complete loss of about $111 million. Disappointing. This is the film I haven't actually seen yet. I did want to see it when it came out because it was getting some really fabulous reviews. I just never got around to it, basically. And then when I started to see that, it wasn't kind of doing what it needed to do at the box office, it just got pushed further and further down the watch list. I have heard good things about this one. It is reviewed quite well. It just didn't resonate with audiences, unfortunately, which ended up making quite a big loss.
Tell me this clown is a level 4 naughty lister? A level 4 naughty lister? Oh, is that funny too?
Hey, you're gonna help us find Nick.
So coming in at number 8 on the list is a very recent release. It is Red One, that only came out a few weeks ago. It had a huge budget of $250 million. Fairly disappointing box office return of $175 million, potentially because everybody knew that this was going to probably turn up on Amazon Prime pretty quickly because it was funded by Prime. And so it made overall a loss of about $128 million. Although saying that, like I say, it's on Prime right now. If you want to go and watch it, it's probably going to do really well on Prime, but that doesn't translate to bang for your buck, I suppose. So, yeah, this one was a bit of a disappointing return at the box office for sure.
Taking your chances, made your mistakes, and now a final triumph.
Now, coming in at number 7 on the list, and this one broke my heart a little bit, is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, that was released last year in 2023. It had a staggering budget of $326 million. What were Disney thinking? It came back with a modest 384 million. They were clearly hoping they were going to pass the billion mark with this one. And with everything else that they ploughed into this film, it made a loss of about 143 million. Very, very disappointing. This one was kind of failed. It was set to be doomed before it was ever released, really, with all the talk about it online and this kind of stuff, and just the Disney label on it. Everything they do these days seems to be cursed, and most of it is their own fault, I accept. But for someone who's grown up with the Indiana Jones franchise, to see it kind of go out like this is very, very disappointing. I think the last two films, even though they do have some merit, I think the first three films, thankfully, I hope their reputation hasn't been tarnished by the last two films, if you like. But yeah, this was very, very disappointing, this one, the box office return.
They found something from that day that they kept hidden for 50 years. And now, it's too late to stop.
So, coming in at number 6 on the list is another fairly recent release. It's Moonfall, that came out in 2022. The Roland Emmerich disaster epic turned out to be a little bit of a damp squid at the box office. It had a budget of 138 million. It brought back about 67 million at the box office. An overall loss of around 144 million when you consider everything. Disappointing. Roland Emmerich, has done so many massive blockbusters over the years. Independence Day, Day After Tomorrow, The Patriot, things like that. I mean, he's a great, great director, but he's lost his Midas touch, I think. I actually watched this at the time. I quite enjoyed it. I think it's a fun but dumb science fiction-like disaster film. It just didn't do well with audiences, quite clearly, so definitely classed as a failure, this one.
I hope you like that.
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Now, another one that kind of broke my heart a little bit is the one that comes in at number 5, and it is The Flash. Released last year. I really quite enjoyed this one. I was super excited to see the return of Michael Keaton as Batman. Yes, it had its flaws, this film, but it was certainly fun. But it had a big budget of 200 million. It did box office returns of 271 million. This one needed to be getting close to $1 billion to start being really successful. It ended up losing about 155 million. Again, when you consider everything that it goes into promoting a film like this, so very, very disappointing. I was really sad to see this one do poorly, mainly for Michael Keaton, if I'm being honest, because he was brilliant in the film and it was fabulous to see him return, but unfortunately wasn't to be, and we have now got a rebooted DC universe with James Gunn, so let's see how that turns out.
I've never been one for rules. The answer is always more.
And we follow that DC failure with yet another DC failure, because coming in at number 4 is Wonder Woman 1984. This film didn't impress me at all when I watched it. I was very, very disappointed after the success and how well received the first Wonder Woman film was. They decided to churn out this turd of a film. It was terrible. I had a budget of 200 million. It came back with worldwide box office receipts of about 166 million, so it made a loss of around 160 million. Definitely a bit of a damp squid, this one. It was poorly reviewed, fans didn't enjoy it, and the box office enjoyed it even less.
Ancestors, please protect her.
What is your name, soldier?
Hua Jun, Commander, son of Hua Zhou.
So coming in at number 3 on this list is the 2020 live-action retelling of Disney's Mulan. It had a huge budget of 200 million. It was a dire return at the box office of only 66 million, and in total it lost around 166 million. Definitely a failure, this one. Disney's obsession with remaking their animated films into live action films has to end at some point. I can't think of many that have been what you would describe as huge successes. And this is no different, really. I haven't seen this one. I don't really have any intentions of watching this one. I just know it wasn't well received. Even fans of the animated one really this one. So, yeah, I'm not really sure who they made it for, because it definitely didn't make its money at the box office.
Mankind mobilized. A new age arose. The age of the great predator cities. Survival of the fastest.
So coming in at number 2 on this list is Mortal Engines, that was released in 2018. Another one that I haven't seen. I'm actually going to watch this one, hopefully, over the Christmas period. I've always wanted to watch this one. I always thought the trailers for this looked pretty cool. Just never got around to watching it. But it did very poorly at the box office. It had a budget of 110 million. It only brought 83 million back, but it made a massive loss of 212 million when you consider everything, which is a huge loss for the film. So it's really got a poor reputation because of that. I don't know a great deal about the film. I don't know how it reviewed that well. I don't think it did that well in regards to critics' reviews and stuff, but I've always thought the idea and the concept sounded pretty cool, so I will probably check it out anyway. But yeah, definitely a big box office bomb, this one.
She's entangled our light-based powers, so we switch places whenever we use them.
Strong theory.
You can absorb light. I can see it.
And coming in at number 1 on the list, and by some margin, is The Marvels, that was released in 2023. It had a staggering budget of 270 million. It brought back 206 million, but with everything considered, and Disney being Disney, it made a massive loss of 237 million. A huge flop. It was a disaster of a film. I haven't seen it. I've no intentions of seeing it. I think this is the only Marvel film I haven't seen. It just looked awful to me, and audiences agreed. I think by this point, Disney and Marvel were just getting a bit too big for their shoes, big for the britches, if you like, and they got a good old slap. Hopefully they've learned their lesson. It's been a bit of a better year for them this year with Deadpool and Wolverine, obviously. But let's see how they progress going forward, Disney and Marvel. Have they learned their lessons? I'm not entirely convinced, but if they don't learn their lessons, they're going to get even more box office failures like this one. So thanks for joining me for this list, guys. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it interesting. I will see you, of course, with plenty more content to come leading up to the new year, and of course leading into 2025 and beyond. So thank you very much for joining me once again, guys.